Hi, Rabbi.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. How are you?
Amazing. How are you?
Good. Saw you last night on Zoom.
Don't I look good on Zoom? Okay, here we are. So I'm gonna share with you. We've actually looked at this before, but we're gonna look at a couple of new things on the whole story of the sale of Yosef. Now, Parshas Vayeishev is phenomenal. It is phenomenal because it's action-packed. There's so much stuff that goes on. There's the stuff that they teach you in school, and then there's the stuff that they skip in school. But, you know, since we're in school, we're not going to do the stuff that we skip in school. The story of Yehuda and Tamar, that is something that is, you know, quite salacious, should we say? Is that a fair term? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to even like make my situation better here. Look at that. Oh, now you can see me. We're going to look just at the psukim in two parts. The first Aliyah, and then the story when Yosef is sold into slavery. So, and by the way, this is an anomalous year as well, because this year Parshas Vayeishev is Hanukkah. Normally Parshas Miketz is Hanukkah, and it's very rare that we have a year like this where Miketz is not Hanukkah, because everybody always says, oh, what's the association of Miketz with Hanukkah, and the 7 cows, and the skinny cows eat the fat cows, and that's like, you know, the weak but the hand of the whatever. All the different Torahs that we have. But it's the last time it happened, if I'm not mistaken, is 20 years ago that we've had Miketz as not Shabbos Hanukkah. So this is like, if you want to add another bizarre thing to this year, I think I mentioned it last week also, that this year Christmas Day is on a Friday, and it's also on a fast day. Asar B'Tevis, the only fast day they could be on a Friday. So, like, you know, why not? I have an idea of what I want to do for New Year's Eve. I want to have a big party where we're going to get just a giant 55-gallon drum and just take everything 2020 and burn it. Like a big party, like just burn everything. Like, you know, why not? Okay, let's look at the opening text. Okay, Parshas Vayeishev, chapter 37. If you're in the Stone Chumash, page 198. Vayeishev Yaakov be'eretz Migurei Aviv be'eretz Canaan. Yaakov settles in Canaan. Eile toldos Yaakov Yosef ben Shiva Esrei Shana Haya Ro'eh Esachav Batzon V'hu Naras B'nei Bilhah V'es B'nei Zilpah Neshei Aviv Vayavei Yosef Es Diba Sam Ra'ah El Avihem. That is a lot of pasuk right there. Okay, so I'm just going to read you the Art Scroll translation, and feel free to jump in with any thoughts or suggestions, because there's a lot to unpack even in this one pasuk. These are the chronicles of Jacob. Joseph, at the age of 17, was a shepherd with his brothers by the flock, but he was a youth with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and Joseph would bring evil reports about them to their father. Okay, so I'll just point out a couple of things. The Torah is setting the stage for what's about to happen, because if I would say to you, these are the Eile Toldos so-and-so, okay? If I would say Eile Toldos Vivian, because we always pick on Vivian, I would start with, you know, 3 daughters, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I would pick one of them. So the fact that the Torah picks one of them, says Eile Toldos Yaakov Yosef. Whoa. Okay, so like, now I understand that this is the story of Joseph. This is the story of Joseph and his brothers, but, you know, it takes 2 to tango. He's not the only one there, and he's certainly not even the oldest, which okay, already at this point shouldn't bother us that someone who's not the oldest doesn't get top billing, because that's never the case, which we're going to see more with Ruvain as we go on. Anyway, he is the shepherd. Haya ro'eh esachav batzon. It's a very unusual phrase. They translated he was a shepherd with his brothers. With his brothers. If you would say somebody is with, you would say Haya ro'eh
Im
echav. Right, with his brothers. So what might you say is ro'eh et echav?
Well, et is more for an object.
Yeah. So maybe he's shepherding his brothers.
And we're B'nai Leah also.
Shelley, you're muted.
Yes. Sorry, listening to this. No, just that like he's taking care, he's shepherding his brothers.
And which is further
Shepherds up his
supported
brothers.
in the pasuk because it says like, oh, he's telling on them. Right? It says that he shepherds it says a few things. He's 17, so okay, 17 is not exactly an age where we want to give a tremendous amount of responsibility. I mean, we may let our children that age drive a car on their own, provided they don't attack the garage door with it, right, Yafit?
I still need that compound back. Thank you.
She still has it?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I thought she, like, you know what? I saw her talking to Eden the other night about it. I thought maybe they were.
It's all good. It's all good. You can keep
Okay.
the compound.
I promise you she didn't use it.
It's all good.
So he's 17. He's not exactly, of age. He's 17. First of all, the word, what does it say? Hu na'ar. Na'ar. Rashi says he does masa na'aros. Na'aros. When we talk about something in Yiddish, when we say something is nonsense, what's the word we use?
Nourishkeit.
Nourishkeit. What's the definition of na'ar? So Rav Hirsch, we've mentioned this in the past. Rav Hirsch in Parshas B'Shalach, during the story of Kriyas Yamsuf, when it says that God tossed the Egyptians about, it says Vayina'er. Vayina'er, like we say when you finish the Shabbos meal, you take lena'er et hamapa, is we shake out the tablecloth. So na'ar is someone that shakes off authority, Rav Hirsch says. An adolescent. So therefore, somebody, narishkeit, what do you know? It's nonsense because you don't understand what real life is. So for some reason, he is na'ar. He is in charge in some sense. And it says b'nei bilha, b'nei zilpa. So we have a few interpretations of this. Some say that, he was nice to them. Or because maybe they didn't like him, so they didn't like the children of the shifchas, because, Jews tend to be cruel. We're very good at discriminating against people, especially people who are not like us, or people who don't have backgrounds like us, which is why the Torah often picks the heroes from the least likely of places. My whole King David HaMelech spit. So he is hanging out with them, so to say. And it says, Vayaveh Yosef es diba samra el avihem. And he brings evil reports about them to their father. Now, who's the them? Right?
Well, it says here that it's just B'nai Zilpah and B'nai Bilhah. But what about Leah's sons?
Where does it say that?
Well, they're the only ones that are referenced.
Right. Well, well, first of all, there's two things there because it says Hayaro es echav. He's shepherding with or his brothers, and then it mentions B'nai Zilpah, B'nai Bilhah by name,
Right.
and then it just says very generically, and he brought back their evil tidings to the father. Mefarshim
I
have
didn't
many
read it that
different
way.
opinions. What, Gail?
I read it as he's with Zilpah and Bilhah's children, and the reports would be against Leah's children. That's who he was not with. And since he
Right.
wasn't with them,
That's a traditional reading.
I'm traditional.
But it's deliberately vague. Right? You see what's happening here? It's deliberately vague. There's
Yes.
something. It's not. It could. If you were writing this, you would be a little more clear. Like, if you were I had a lot of PTA meetings the last few weeks. So like if I was in Miss Bo's class, how would she tell me what to write? So she's a great teacher, Diane Bose. Anyway, to further complicate the matters, the Yisrael ahav es Yosef mikol banav ki ben zekunim. Hello, look, so was Pasim. Yisrael, he loved Joseph more than his sons. Gewalt. Like we didn't learn our lesson until now with all this stuff. And not only that, why? Because he's Ben Zekunim. I can relate to this. And V'asalok Sones Pasim. I can't tell you how many people refer to my son as Ben Zekunim. I don't know if that's a good reflection on him or a poor reflection on me. But he's definitely, and like often now, like just on a regular, any morning or evening, my kids will just look at him and they're like, you guys are the same person. It's scary. So he would then, now first of all, what's missing right away? The fact that the father loves him, and because he's old, and then not only that, but he shows his love by making a coat. Now, some say that by making some sort of garment. Again, I'm just, kind of like splicing in some opinions of the Mefarshim. is that it meant that he was designated as royalty, so to say. That, you know, when you wear a garment, it designates your rank. So by giving him a garment and no one else, that's his rank. And you could prove it from other places in Tanakh. But the fact is also is that if Yosef is telling on his brothers, so what's noticeably missing? We're going to set the stage for something here in a minute. Is that the father there's no response. Now, Yaakov historically does not have responses. Okay, if we looked at last week's parsha, what was Yaakov's response to the story of, let's say, Dinah and Shechem?
Nothing.
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 Nada for nada. And what was when Ruvain switches the tents with Bilhah? Nothing. Okay. When Shimon and Levi kill, Dinah's kidnapped, nothing. Shimon and Levi, nothing. Okay. So, and then they say something to him, and it's one of those open-ended paragraphs in the Chumash when they say, Hakizona yases achosenu, they should treat our sister like a harlot, and that's it. And the Torah's like, okay, on to the next thing. It's like the end of the book of Yonah. Like, I don't know where it goes. Like, what do we do? Okay. So he doesn't say anything. Not only that, he favors this son. So it's then natural. The psukim that follow is Vayar Echav. Again, we're pasuk Dalet on page 200. Ki oso ahav avihem mikol achav vayisneu osov v'lo yachlu dabro l'shalom. So the brothers see, and it doesn't take much to see, but they see that the father loves him more, or maybe he has appointed him to a position above them. He's ro'eh es echav. He is now shepherding the brothers. He's shepherding their bad news. He's shepherding over them. He's lording over them. He's acting like he's a big something to do. Okay. And they hate him. Very, very strong words. They hate him. And now, lo yachlu dabro l'shalom. They can't speak to him peaceably. Now, could be that they don't want to say anything to him because they're afraid of that it's just going to dig their hole deeper. It's going to put them back into trouble with their father. Okay. So this is bad enough. Now we get into the story of the dreams. And again, this is like rapid fire. This is all in the first aliyah. The Torah's like boom, 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 boom. Look at all this stuff that's happening. Vayachalom Yosef chalom vayaged le'echav vayosifa otzna osaf. He dreams a dream and he tells his brothers and they hate him. What's interesting here, first of all, this is the second occurrence of the word hate. We're going to see 3 here. They hate him 3 times. Hate is not like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. We throw that word around like it's nothing. My daughter FaceTimes me from Israel every day. So she's FaceTiming me from her terrace and it's 75 degrees and sunny. And I go, I hate you. Okay. And I'm like, it's one of those days, when like you get cold and you can't quite get warm again, when you go outside or something like that. So I hate you. But here, this is real hatred between brothers. This is bad stuff. This is bad news. Now, what's interesting is that the Torah says they hate him. The Torah has not related what's in the dream. It's a very subtle point, but it's important. Right? It's only the next pasuk when he says, listen to my dream. The first time, he just dreamed and he told them. And they further hate him. Now, what if he had said like a nice dream? Oh, I dreamed that we all got along and we're running around the sunflowers and we're holding hands and singing songs and kumbaya, blah. Like, would they still hate him? The answer is probably yes.
Well, it says also in the previous pasuk that it doesn't matter what, like they couldn't speak peaceably to him. So like it didn't even matter what he said. It seems it just
exactly, Miriam. That's exactly the point. Is that it wouldn't matter. That's why the almost the essence of what's in the dream doesn't even matter. It's irrelevant. It's just the fact, the way he behaved. Because if you have such disdain for someone, you cannot hear anything even positive out of their mouths. And by the way, that's a big problem. It's a big problem in our society today, where we live in such a polarized society, especially given the political climate, that, the guy that you didn't vote for can never say anything good, even if it's really good. On either side, by the way, and I'm not talking about who voted for what. I'm just saying that's just what it is. Okay, if you're on either side of the aisle, whatever the other one says is just treif, tuma, whatever you want to use, no matter what it said. Even if you just said, this paper is white. No, that's the worst thing. You're a racist or whatever. You fill in the blanks, okay? So that's what's happening here. Now he says, by the way, and you wonder if Yosef is he clueless? Is he immature? Does he really believe in this? Some people feel like it's like a mitzvah min haTorah to like tell you, when something's wrong. And like they feel like they feel the need to point it out. I say that many Jews, the favorite mitzvah in the Torah is hochech tochiach hasamisecha. Is that a Jew? There's nothing that gives a Jew greater satisfaction than pointing out what another Jew is doing wrong. Okay, so it's like, I don't know, this innate thing. That's why the Torah has to give us a mitzvah. I don't know. So he says to them, I don't know. Look, guys, shimunah. He didn't like. He's like, guys, please listen. Come on, you got to hear this one. Listen to this dream. Oh, and we're sheaves and this, and you're bowing, and I'm bowing, you're bowing. So like, they don't have a choice. He's telling it to them anyway. Some people you can't. There is no mute button here. Okay, we're gonna miss that. Rabbis, my colleagues all say it. They're gonna miss the fact that when everything is back to normal, there's no mute button. You can't mute people in shul, right? So what happens? Look at Pasuk Ches. They say Vayomru lo echav hamaloch timloch alini imoshel timshol panu. Vayosifu od sino osav al chalamosav ve'al divarav. Third instance, they hate him. He's like what? You're gonna rule over us? It's bad enough that you tell on our father. It's bad enough that you open your mouth. Now we have to listen to what you're actually saying. And what you're saying is like, you're going to lord over us. It's bad enough that our father already put you in this position, and you're going to flaunt it. You're going to throw it in our faces. So it says, Vayasifa od sano. So now they hate him. They hate him again. And for his dreams, al divarav, and all kinds of things the Mefarshim say what's going on. He has another dream. And again, this is all setting the groundwork for the sale of Yosef. He dreams, and he tells it again to his brothers. Now this time, he doesn't say, Shimuna, could you please listen? He just dreams it and he tells them. Vayomer, and he says, Vayomer is like, and he says, like, I don't care if you're listening or not, you're going to listen to this. This is what it is. And he tells them the Shemesh Yareach and the 10 things. And then he tells us, again, Vayisaper oso le'achav, and then a second time, Pasuk Yud, Vayisaper el aviv el achav. So it could be they have to hear it a second time. There's Vayomer, and then there's Vayisaper. He tells it to his father and to his brothers. And here, Vayigarbo aviv Vayomer lamachol mazer shkolamta. His father says, what is it? What kind of dream is this? His father actually reprimands him. And he says, what, your mother and I, by the way, his mother's dead. Your mother and I we're going to bow down to you. Now look at Pasuk Yud Aleph. Pasuk Yud Aleph, this is so important. This is something I never picked up upon. I'll tell you where I got it from in a second. This is the end of the first Aliyah. The brothers now, instead of 3 times saying they were hating, what does it say here this time?
They're jealous.
Jealous.
Why the switch to jealousy? What changes now? What does that mean, be jealous of him? What could they be jealous of? I mean, if you could, it would make sense in the beginning to say they were jealous when the father gave him a coat. It would be interesting to say that, he tells on them and the father listens and doesn't say it. Fine, I'm jealous of that you're the favorite. But what now? What do they have to be jealous of?
Maybe after all these dreams, they see that there's some validity. I mean, if it's one dream, okay, but it's several.
So there is that opinion in the Rishonim that and in the Mefarshim and Mekos Gedolos, it says that because the father sort of validated his dreams, and the fact that the father validated it, that they became jealous of, like, oh gosh, maybe there's something to it, like, oh my God, can you imagine if I have to live under this guy? Oh, and then you become jealous of it because you want to be in that position.
Well, it's also, the father was saying, are we going to have to bow down to you? In other words, we're not going to bow down to you, but maybe others would.
So you're taking like a very Talmudic approach, like we're not going to bow down, but others will. I like that. Okay, it's good. I understand why you say that, but So I'll share with you this insight. This also just, I always, don't say I never give you anything good to read. You see this book? It's called Tribal Blueprints. Okay. This just came out and it was written by Nechama Price. Professor Nechama Price, who is our Yoetz at Halacha here in Metro West, and she is a phenomenal teacher and a scholar, and she wrote this book. It's all about the instances of the 12 tribes in Chumash and also their descendants in Tanakh. Really, it's a great book. And here she points out something that I completely missed, but that doesn't say much if I missed something, is that they're jealous because up until now, anytime anything happens to Yaakov Avinu, he's silent.
That's it.
And for the first time, he says something. Even in the rebuke, they're jealous that the father rebuked him. It's a brilliant insight. They're jealous that the father rebuked him. Like, you never said anything before, because you know what? What do we say? I only say it's because I care. If I didn't care, I wouldn't say, I would ignore you, like that kind of thing. So the fact that he takes the time and the effort, Mr. Silent himself is going to say something to the brothers and to Yosef. Oh, that. Like, why couldn't you say it to me when I killed the whole city of Shechem? Why couldn't you, it's an interesting insight, really, really fascinating, but just shows you in this first aliyah, in these first 10, 11 psukim, there is a tremendous amount that one could really parse out and unpack here in the text itself. Okay, now let's go to the story of the selling of Yosef, okay? So the groundwork is laid. They don't like him. Now, is this worthy of murder or kidnapping or selling? Is that ever justified?
No, but that wasn't their intention. It just snowballed.
Yeah. It's by the way, it certainly did. It certainly did. Before we do that, let's just refer to the end of the story. Go to chapter 42. 42. Okay. So if we go to chapter 42, this is later in Parshas Miketz. Page 236 in the stone. This is when they are like in Egypt and he's holding them and he's holding one of the brothers and they don't know what's going on. And they have this conversation among themselves. The very top of the page, Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Vayomeru ish el achiv. So they each said to one another, by the way, they don't realize that Yosef or his son is actually there and understands their language. They think that they're talking on a secure line. The moral of the story is that someone is always listening. Big brother. Here it's little brother is watching. You remember when we had to read 1984 in school and we're like, oh, this can never happen. That's crazy. Yeah, now it's like, if I think in my mind, if I'm at home and I'm near a computer and I just think, let's say I just think in my mind, Bloomingdale's, and I'm going to have 17 ads for Bloomingdale's on the computer right then. You know that. And I didn't say it out loud, not a word. I just thought Bloomingdale's. Oh, there it is right now. Okay. Vayomru ish el achiv aval hashemim anachnu al achinu asher inu tzaras na'asher b'schanenu eleinim v'lo shamanu akin ba'a eleinu hatzara hazos. They're like, oh, look what happened. And this is typical Jewish guilt. Like, bad things happened to us because of something that we did. Oh, you know why I didn't get the job? Because I was late to shul, because I was talking. No, nobody ever attributes to talking in shul. I wasn't nice to my mother. Like, any excuse you want. They said to one another, indeed, we're guilty concerning our brother, inasmuch as we saw his heartfelt anguish when he pleaded with us, and we paid no heed. That's why this anguish has come upon us. Okay, so when they admit their guilt, and that's aval ashemim anachnu, they admit their guilt, and they say, look what we did to our brother. Ruvain speaks up, and he's like, didn't I tell you, don't do it? Look, now he's being avenged. Now they didn't, the next pasuk actually tells us, the author tells us, oh, they didn't know that Yosef understood. Okay. But what is it that they're admitting to? Read this very, very carefully. Do they say, like, if you were writing the story, the way we understand, the way we've always learned the story, and even after we unlearn the story, we still go back to our roots. And if I say to you, who sold Yosef into slavery? The answer is always going to be his brothers. Okay, so let's look into that. Did they really? But when they're admitting the sin, what do they say? They're like, what are we guilty about? we're guilty about our brother because, you know what, he was screaming and we didn't listen to him. We saw his heartfelt anguish when he pleaded with us and we paid no heed. I would think it should say, well, by the way, you know, that's pretty awful that we sold him as a slave in Egypt. We sold him down and we don't know what happened to him. That's pretty bad. I would say that's pretty bad to sell your brother as a slave. Okay. Many times when I was younger, I wanted to you know, ship my brother off somewhere. I never really meant it, you know? And okay, so, you know, we told on him, we did this, but here they're saying, well, what's the terrible sin? That we didn't listen to him when he was crying. So what exactly are they referring to? And if that's the case, is this really so bad? So now we have to go back, armed with this pasuk, we have to go back now to the second aliyah, go back to page 202, the second aliyah in Vayeishev, 37:12. Now, remember, years ago, we took out the map and we looked at the map and the route and everything, but this is the geography is not as important, although it's fascinating if you ever go to these places and you could see exactly the terrain and the layout, and it's quite beautiful. My favorite parts of Israel are the biblical parts of Israel, which, you know, are not so easy to go to. So, like, you know, it says here they went to Shechem. You know, you can't just go to Shechem, Nablus. You can go to an overlook and you drive through and you go to Har Gerizim, which of course also has tremendous historical importance, and you can overlook and you can see Joseph's tomb. There's a lookout where you can see Joseph's tomb. Once a month, on Rosh Chodesh, they allow the Jewish people to go in and pray, which is not so easy. And you also go through Har Bracha there. Har Bracha has the best tchina in the country, and you could get it straight out of it's like ice cream, like out of the like soft ice cream. But they also have there the Samaritans. If you've ever seen the Samaritans, you know, they have like these giant weird ears. There's a lot of inbreeding there, but they have these big ears that you could tell they are. Anyway, they go to Shechem. So Yisrael says to Yosef, look, they're in Shechem, you know, go check on them. Now, in the end of Pasuk Yud Gimel, it says, Vayomer lo hineni. This is usually a phrase of like, yeah, something bad's going to happen, but I'm going to do it anyway. Of course, you're reminded of Vayomer lo hineni, of Yitzchak at the Akedah. Okay, Vayomer lo hineni. Oh, here I am. I'm good. Nancy, you looking for a pen? I have a pen you could borrow. You're like... You're muted. I can't hear you. I feel bad. I feel like you lost something. And
I'm listening to you, but I'm cleaning out my purse. I'm
oh,
sorry.
by the way, that's like that's a full-time job. Okay. I once cleaned out my wife's thing. Boy, that was the first and last time I ever did that. Anyway, so he says, go check and see, like, you know, how they are. So he goes from Emek Chevron v'Yovo Shechema. So imagine the valley of Chevron. So they go straight up Route 60. Which, you know, probably today is the most dangerous road in Israel because of the terrible drivers on both sides of our cousin's coin. So he goes, he can't find them. And the guy says to him, what are you looking for? And he's like, I'm looking for my brothers. And they're like, oh, I heard they went to Dothan. And he goes and he finds them in Dothan. Now, Pasuk Yud-Ches. Vayir'u oso merachok. They see him from afar. Now, this is possible. Imagine you're on a ridge, you're on a mountain, and you could see from far away, you know, that someone's coming. Nowadays, we call that Life 360. Okay? If you don't, you know, if you have, you know, kids with phones, you know what I'm talking about. We track every one of their movements. My parents said to me, come back when it's dark. Now it's like, I need to know, like, you know, you stopped over here for 30 seconds and you had heartbreaking and you know, this, we're very, very, anyway, they see him, but before he can get close to them, Vayisnaklu oso lahamiso. They already have this plan to kill him. So this is plan A. The first plan that they have is, let's kill him. Before we go any further, good idea, bad idea? I mean, obviously it's not a good idea, but I mean, what could justify this behavior? Like, what's going on? They want to kill him because he's got a big mouth? And they really want to kill him, by the way. They're not just talking. They really want to kill him.
Well, they hated him.
Right. So hatred leads to action. And this action is one that is an irreversible effect of brother wanting to kill a brother, which, by the way, many of the modern commentaries will draw a parallel between what happens here, more importantly, the aftermath, with what happens with another time a brother killed a brother. Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel. Especially the lack of responsibility afterwards, where God approaches Cain and he says to him, like, where's your brother? And he's like, what do you care about my brother, right? Hashem Rachi Anochi. He has complete, like, I don't care. Like, it couldn't have, by the way, and the Mefarshim, it's something you don't think about, is that, no one's ever died before. So he has no idea what death means. He had a confrontation with him. He did something to him, but he doesn't know he's not coming back forever. He doesn't know that. It's the first time somebody ever died. So you don't know what that is. If you've never seen death before, you don't know what death is, right? Something to think about. So he goes and they go, let's kill him. Verse 19, Pasuk Yotes, Vayomer ish el achiv, hine ba'al hachalamos halazeba. Oh, here comes the dreamer, which already gives you a key as to why do they want to kill him. They don't want to kill him necessarily because of the tattletale-ness. They want to kill him because of the dreams. They want to kill him because he sees himself as a lord over them. That's enough. In other words, it's kill or be killed. I want to be ruled over by this schnook, by this shmendrik. No. We're going to take care of it. And then look what they say. Ve'ata l'chu v'nahargehu. We're going to, and again, there's very, very clear language. We're going to kill him. Ve'nashlicheu b'chad habaros. We're going to throw him in one of these pits. Ve'amarnu chayara achalasu. And we have a plan. This is very, very calculated, even though it takes place in a very short period of time, it would seem. How long does it take to get from eyesight, from within your eyesight, even somebody's a kilometer away, and to get here, to have a plan and say, we're going to kill him. We'll see what happens to his dreams, right? Well, let's see what happens to his dream. We're going to kill him. We're going to dispose of the body. We're going to have a plan. We're going to have an alibi, and we're going to say to our father, because that's the main concern. What are we going to say to our father? After all, it is his favorite. So they did take that into account of what they have to say. They don't just say he never. It would have been easier to just say he never got here, right? Why do they have to? It's a good question. Why do they have to even say chaya ra'ah chalasu? Oh, a wild animal. Why don't they just say Joseph? We haven't seen him. Wouldn't that have been easier? Wouldn't it have been easier, or what? They don't want to lie.
And why are they using the word lechu? Who are they talking to? Lechu.
Lechu, we let us go.
That's not like us. That's like you go. Just
No.
say nelech.
Lech, but you would say lechu
You'd say no. You'd say nelech. You wouldn't say lechu. Lechu
Right,
is a command
right.
to somebody else.
Right.
They're not taking
Could be
responsibility.
maybe they're speaking to they said it was Shimon and Levi, but those are the troublemakers, right? They say lechu. Yeah. We're not all going to do it. Some, there's always the talkers and there's always the doers. Okay. But they want to kill him. Okay. That's plan A. So plan A is of right now, they want to kill him. Now they don't kill him. So something happens in between. Reuven, plan B. Reuven says, he hears what they're going to say, because in other words, he's not. So Vayishma Reuven, the fact that he's listening and he hears this indicates that he's not the one that had this plan. They say it's Shimon and Levi. They have a history of violence. They've proven themselves to be of the murderous type. So killing someone, not such a big deal. Okay. And if it upsets their father, okay, we can deal with that too. We'll figure out an excuse. He saves him. Now, what saves him means he saves him from death, from this death plan. And he says, no, we're not going to kill him. We're not going to kill him mortally. Turn to page 204. Vayomer aleihem Reuven al tishbechu dam. Hashlicho so labar azeh shemibar v'yad al tishbechu bo. Laman hatzil asom yadam lahashiva al aviv. Now, what's interesting to point out is that normally when it says the word Vayomer, and then it says Vayomer again, it means that there's an interruption. If you say one statement, we will not kill him, we will not spill his blood, let's throw him into the pit, okay? And the Torah tells us kind of like parenthetically, oh, by the way, he's going to save them. He has the savior complex. He's the oldest. He's going to prove to his father, look, I'm the oldest. I can do stuff, right? Okay. So the fact that it says Vayomer twice indicates that, like nobody really paid attention to him. This is Ruvain. It's like Vayomer, guys, listen up. Guys, we're not going to kill him. And they keep doing what they're doing. No, guys, listen, brothers, listen. We're not going to do anything. We're going to throw him in a pit. Okay, now what's his plan? His plan is we're going to save him. And then like, we're going to punish him. And he's going to show them like, what is throwing him in a pit, meaning he's going to die on his own? Like, what do the brothers think that he's trying to sell them? Okay. So when they somehow they buy into this though. They buy into this. And Vayehi Kasher, again, we're in the third Aliyah. When Yosef came, he finally approaches. Again, this is however long it takes to walk from, eye distance and not hearing distance. And they've already, first they're going to kill him. And then Reuven says, no, we're not going to kill him. We're going to throw him in the pit. So they take off this garment, this detestable, despicable garment that they can't stand when they see it, because that's part of maybe the dreams, is that he's going to lord over them. Maybe this coat represents everything that they hate about him. It's not just about the favoritism, it's about the fact that he's going to rule over them, and maybe in their minds that justifies harming or killing him. They take off this coat, they throw him in the pit, and the pit is empty. There's no water in it. Of course, we know Rashi, famous Rashi, but there's scorpions and snakes. Okay, fine. 25. What's the plan? They're not killing him. They throw him in a pit. Now what? They're gonna go home. So what do? Like all good Jews, what do? You sit down.
They eat.
You eat, right? No. Come in as man kind. Vayeshu lecha lechem vayisrael nem vayir b'nei orchas Yishmaelim ba'am Gilad. Ugam aleihem nosim nechos tzri v'lod hochem larim Mitzrayma. They're sitting down to eat. And again, on the ridge, on the mountain, look what they see. Oh, here's a caravan of Ishmaelites, our cousins. And, we discussed this. They go along the Via Maris towards, before the mountainous range of Israel in the north of Israel. And then they hook a left over at the coast and they go all the way down to Egypt. That's the trade route. And we see.
Oh,
Yeah, it stopped.
frozen. Only him. We hear each other. Oh, funny. Hello.
Shelley, do you see the rabbi?
Yeah, I see him, but he's frozen.
Oh, I see you now. But yeah, he was frozen.
Oh, Gail wrote the same thing.
Am I back?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm back.
You are.
I was Anna and Elsa there for a second. How about that? Okay, so they see that Yishmaelim in the foreground, or far away, again coming through, and then he says Vayomer. Now, by the way, look at the difference between the way Yehuda speaks and the way Reuven speaks. Vayomer Yehuda Elachav. Yehuda speaks to his brothers, and he says in one now by Elachav, like to his brothers. Reuven just speaks. When Yehuda speaks, he was like E.F. Hutton, right? I'm dating myself. They listen. Right? And he says, what are we going to gain by killing him? We're going to cover his blood. Let's sell him to the Yishmaelim. After all, he is our brother. And look what it says. Vayishma'u echav. So this is now plan C. This is the third plan. It started off they're going to kill him. Reuven says we're going to throw him in a pit. Unclear what's supposed to happen to him after that, even though we know what Reuven wants to do. They sit down to eat. They see the Ishmaelim and they go, let's sell it to him. Okay. Then look at the next pasuk, which is wild. Vaya'avru anashim midyanim silcharim. Now we have Midianite men, traders. Vayimshechu vayalu es Yosef min habor vayimkru es Yosef l'Ishmaelim be'esrim kasef. Vayaviu es Yosef Mitzrayim. Yosef is raised from the pit. He is sold to the Ishmaelim, and he is brought down to Egypt. Here is a very deliberate vagueness in the Psukim again, when it says, first of all, what's the point of telling us about Midyanim,
Yeah.
Midianites? And when it says Vayim Shechu, which means and they lifted him out of the pit. Who lifted him out of the pit? Who?
It's purposely vague.
Because we always say the brothers lifted him out of the pit. If that's the case, what do we care about the Midianite? Well, who's so and it's
It almost sounds like the Midianites took him first, and then they felt him to the.
Midianites. So the Midianites, they lift him out of the pit, and then they take him and they sell him to the Ishmaelim. Now look at verse 29. A lot of it makes sense. Vayeishev Reuven el labor v'hinei Yosef abor v'yikras begadav.
Oh, that's why he didn't know.
Reuven comes back to the pit. What do you mean? Where was he?
Oh,
He was eating. He was eating.
He was eating. Where were they eating?
far away so they couldn't hear him.
Exactly. That's
Like
why
a-
later on, when it says Aval Hashemim Anachnu, we are
Oh,
we're guilty because let's be honest with you, okay? I don't know about you, okay?
Ah.
Let me give a completely innocuous, albeit rather comparable example, okay? I'm way past this stage of my life, I think, but having little babies in the house, okay? Did you guys used to like Ferberize babies? You remember that term? To
Yep.
Ferber-
Yeah, no.
no,
Yep.
I'm too old for that.
Now I'm all for it. Like let the baby cry and cry and cry and cry. But when your child cries and you know they have to go to sleep and you know they're tired and every ounce of you wants to go in and comfort and be with them, it tears out your kishkas to hear the babies crying and screaming. And it's even worse when they're able to talk and they say, take me out of this crib. I don't want to go to lab. And then they start with the excuse, I'm hungry. That's the one they always go that gets to the Jewish mother. I'm starving. Oh my God, but I'm like, he's not starving. He's faking it. I need to go to the bathroom. My head hurts. And on and on and on. And it tears out at your kishkas. So when I used to watch the children, if my wife was out and she said, how were they? I said, they were beautiful. They didn't cry. I said, I don't know. I shut off the monitor. Right? That's the way I babysit, okay? Because you can't listen to it. So imagine they throw their brother into the pit
And they
he's
eat.
screaming for his life.
But
And
on
they're
the
eating.
other hand, they had the same plan from the pasuk above. They had the plan, but they didn't really. But they kept eating. Like they talked about selling him. They're eating. In the meantime, it's still happening without their doing it.
Well, what we do know is that they didn't kill him. The original plan was to kill him, and now they don't kill him.
Right.
Maybe they're figuring out, but they go to eat, but you can imagine he's screaming his brains out. And they're like, wait, we're not, so they got to go like to another mountaintop. We're going to go far away. We don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And so I know Rashi says, where was Reuven? It was his turn to go home to his father. But Reuven comes back. He comes back. Maybe he comes back from being with the brothers. And that's why it says, the next pasuk, Vayashav el echav. Reuven returns to his brothers. Remember, he had been with his brothers. They're far away from Yosef. He returns to his brothers and he says, Hayalad einen v'ani anani ba. He's like, where is he? Okay. So now, this is, so they have like, it's like the third thing that went wrong here. First, they're going to kill him. Then they're going to throw him in a pit. And then Reuven goes back to check to make sure he could save him so he could be the savior of the whole situation. And guess what? He's gone. So like everything is real. Like Yafit said at the beginning, like, what was he say? It was a plan that went really bad, right? That's exactly what happened here. Now, the brothers, they show again part of the true colors here. What should they have done? Now, they were going to kill him, get rid of him, whatever. They should have been like, all right. So they just like carry on with life. They carry on with life. And they're like, okay, they take his cloak and they create this ruse where they dip it in blood and they bring it to the father and they say, and in the cruelest, one of the cruelest sentences in all the Chumash, they take this bloody cloak to their father and they say, do you know whose this is? Do you recognize this? Is this the cloak of your son? And he sees it and he says, Kesonas Beni, oh, it must be that a wild animal tore him apart. Notice how they don't say that. They don't say a wild animal tore him apart, even though that was their suggestion originally. They just say, do you recognize this, Dad? And he then draws a conclusion, and maybe it's like it gets him off on a technicality, like we never said that this happened. So in the end of the story, and this is kind of like Rabbi Foreman's insight into this also, which when he puts it all together, it's quite beautiful, is the brothers, Reuven, Yaakov, Yosef, nobody really knows what happened here, because they don't really know. If you would ask the brothers at this point, what happened to Yosef, they'd be like, I don't know. Because everything we tried to do, nothing panned out. We never followed through on any specific plan. If you would ask the father, he certainly doesn't know. If you would ask Yosef, he's like, who sold him? Like, for all he knows, the brothers, and could be that the father was in on it also. When you go, that's always the question, why didn't Yosef ever write home? How come he never sent an email? It could be that he thought his father was in on this. There is that theory. There's no question about it. So everybody, like, nobody really knows what's happening here. Nobody knows what the end game is here. And that's why when they reflect later on their sins, what do they say? Because we didn't listen to his cries. That was our sin. So then you have to ask yourself this question. It's a theoretical question. It's a big what if question, is what if they had gone back? In other words, the only thing that worked against them here was sort of like circumstance and time and location. If they had gotten back to the pit before the Midianites, would they have sold them to the Yishmaelim?
That was their plan. That was their plan.
That was their plan, but we've seen that their plans quickly change. Do you think that the cries and the screaming and maybe Yosef promising to sell his soul to them and say, I'll never say a word of this to Dad. I won't do, did they have that much hatred in their hearts that they would have gone through with it? Now, we'll never know the answer to
I
this
don't know.
question.
Maybe Reuven would have convinced them not to.
Maybe Reuven, maybe Yehuda, because after all, what's Yehuda's plan? Look what he says, by the way. It's like it's very matter of fact, which is kind of the Yehuda quality. Yehuda says, what do we have to gain? Because we're going to kill him and cover up his blood. Let's sell him. And our hands will be clean. Yadenu al tehibo, our hands will be clean of this. And he says, why? Ki achinu b'sarenuhu. After all, he is our brother. Yehuda calls him his brother, so maybe does that brotherly love kick in? There's one thing when you plan something, you hatch a plan, but when you have to actually go through with it, you think you can go through with it? You think they have the ability to really do it? Maybe this is God's way of the hashgacha of everything. Look, we know what has to take place because he has to end up in Mitzrayim, and the Jews are at the Mitzrayim, the Bris Ben Abisarim, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All I'm saying is, if you take a careful reading of the verses, it's not so clear like we learned in 5th grade. Oh, the brothers sold him into slavery. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't necessarily sell him. Were they responsible for him being sold into slavery? Absolutely. Did they pay a price for it? Absolutely. Is this part of God's plan? Absolutely. But when push comes to shove, if the brothers had actually been there, and the key is when you see Reuven, he goes back and forth. Where was he? This is a very important key. So, and all this is why I'm saying we don't need fancy mefarshim for this. You just read the text. When you read the text clearly, and you read it really, really, like one verse at a time. And by the way, we could spend a lot more time on this. I'm just giving you an overshoot. So you have to see what the buildup. What is it about Yosef that the brothers really didn't like? And the second is what were they willing? How far were they willing to go as a result of that? And the fact that they kept changing their minds shows that maybe they weren't so decisive. They were being rash. They were, spur of the moment decision. It's not like they were sitting on the mountain saying, oh boy, if that Yosef comes, I'm going to kill him. Oh, I can't wait. They were hatching a plan. No, he shows up and they're like, oh, look, there he is. What do you say we get rid of him? And they says, okay, let's not get rid of him. Let's throw him in a pit. Let's sell him. So it could be that maybe their minds would change again. We don't know. We don't know.
Is it that, Rabbi, they're indecisive, or whenever you get a quorum of 10 or 11 people, they have difference of opinions and they're just they went to eat to kind of come up with a master plan?
Well, we only have 2 people that spoke up.
Yehuda and Reuven
that we know. The original plan, we don't know who. They say the Chazal tell us that it's Shimon and Levi, but still, and are they working by consensus, or is this the squeaky wheel?
Squeaky wheel.
Is it the loudest voice? I don't know. I'm just saying there's a lot of unknowns here, but one of the things that you cannot say with absolute certainty, especially if you read it in the pasuk because it's deliberately vague, you cannot say that the brothers sold him into slavery. Because otherwise, why would the Torah insert the whole? What do we care about the fact that the Midianites were there? If the
Yeah,
brothers
the
sold them into
Midianites come up
slavery,
in the
what
end.
bearing does it have on the story? Zero, right?
You also could have just had without them that the Ishmaelim come and pull him out. And the Midianites actually appear at the end again, that they sold him in
But then it
Mitzrayim.
says Midyanim. We don't know, the last line.
Oh, the
It is,
Midanim. Oh, this is actually, yeah. what is
yeah,
it?
some say is it the same thing or not?
Yeah.
Right, and it says the
changed
Midyanim
hands.
sold them to Egypt. So they say Rashi says that he changed hands several times. I don't know. You know what I always think of? I think of, remember that movie Gladiator?
And see it.
Behind him,
Russell
and it's like
Crowe.
this one and that one and this one and that. Yes, Russell Crowe. It's very violent. So if Elion were here, Elion's going to watch the recording. Elion, don't watch it. Elion, it's not for you. Don't. It's too violent. It's gory. But this, in other words, if we didn't, it all hinges really on that a few things, but really that pasuk with the Midyanim. If we take out that part of the pasuk, then I have a clear understanding what it says, and they took him out and they sold him. The brothers, that's the only people we're talking about. But in the same pasuk, it says that the Midyanim came, they passed by, and then they picked him up. Who's they? Well, ostensibly, it's the last person you're just talking about, who was the Midyanim. And they sold him to Ishmaelim, and then Reuven comes back. Where is Yosef? Oh my gosh, I got to go back to the brothers. Where he's gone? They're like, what, gone? All right, take the coat, dip it in blood. Go see dad. Have a nice day. Let's have some more challah.
And why they did the ruse? So what are the theories on that? Why the ruse as opposed to just saying he never came?
I don't know. Maybe because if eyewitnesses, because there was, maybe that's why the Torah tells us that there was somebody in Dosan, that he meets the guy and it tells him where are they, so that could get back to him. At least they could say, we saw him, but we found him like this, or this is what we found. They don't say that they saw him; they just say they found the cloak.
Right.
Oh yeah, we found this really colorful cloak. So I don't know. It's there's a lot to say here, but this is one of the great instances of where the text is so rich, and it tells us so much by what it says, and it tells us so much by what it doesn't say. And when you're a student of Tanakh, you have to look at each and every word carefully, the phrases, how they follow one another, etc. And even the subtleties like Vayomer versus Vayomer once, those types of things. And then of course we have the next story is Yehud and Tamar. Another year we'll cover that. It's like it's a little.
Maybe I'm just coming back to what I asked you. Maybe if they just told him he never showed up, he'd say, "Well, go find him." And they didn't want to start doing that.
Yeah. And then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go on a goose chase." So it could be. Yeah, it is. They want to feel like maybe they're acting responsibly, but without lying. And again, they never said anything to the father except, "Do you recognize the coat?" and let him draw the conclusions. They never said anything.
Rabbi, what does it mean when in 30 in pasuk 30 at the end when Reuven says, "Where can I go?" Ani ba. What is that?
Rashi says, how am I gonna explain this to my father?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
How can I escape my father's? He gets it. It's ironically he's the one that gets it. The rest of the brothers, they just dip the coat and bring it back without, even though that it destroys their father, destroys him. It says that he goes down to the grave, Miyagon She'olah, he has this depths of despair. He'll never get out of it. He'll never get over this. Reuven, this is going to kill him. Well, he's not going to survive this one, the old man. He's taken a lot of hits in his life, but I don't think I could brace him for this. He, after all, he is the favorite, right? So this is Reuven. And it's also Reuven feeling like, where am I going to go? This was my ticket. This was my golden ticket for my father, that I was going to be with him, and he was going to really find favor in my eyes, and I would find favor in his eyes, and I would be really the Bechor, which he tries so hard several times, Reuven, with the mixing of the beds and all. He tries to act Bechorish, but it ends up to be Borish. So it's a lot. There's a lot here, but again, this is I highly recommend this Nechama Price's book. It's really, really very detailed. If you like a lot of Mefarshim, really, if you want to sink your teeth into it. But again, so much to see here as we begin the story of Yosef. By the way, Vayeishev, Miketz, Vayigash, Vayechi, 4 parshios dedicated to the story of Yosef. But that's the story of Mitzrayim, redemption, tshuva, all those things need a lot of space. So I hope, first of all, everybody should have a Freilich and Chanukah. We have Hanukkah. We're going to do actually on Sunday. I'm going to send a note, but on Sunday evening, we're going to have like a communal candle lighting on Zoom.
Oh, how
Everybody's going to
nice.
light with our family on Zoom. It'll be fun.
Beautiful.
You'll hear our Kakamemi songs that we sing, but this way everybody can do it together. You know, we got to be separate, but at least we'll be together. It's like another Nachazum. Zoom. Surprisingly, the #1 app of the year announced in 2020 was Zoom. Shocking. Yeah. So we're gonna have lots of things going on. Everybody should have a great day. Stay warm.
Rabbi, do you have 1 minute after? I was
Yeah.
going to ask something.
Yeah.
And just
I
as
don't-
Rabbi,
everybody
can
wants
you
to
also
hear.
can you do the candle lighting with a dial in so somebody like my mother and Morris can Zoom
Absolutely.
doesn't?
I'll send all that information. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Chag
Thank
Sameach.
you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye, everyone.